Hello, everybody. Welcome to All Things Vegetables. It's going to be a very delicious presentation, but I want to give you some great news before I started. So the Food Coach Academy actually we are going to have a 50% off sale, which is unheard of at Rouxbe. But it's a 50% off sale just for the month of August, so that you all get ready for the fall and learn to become a food coach. So that link should be there for you. And how this is going to go is I'm going to talk about all things vegetables. Then I will switch over to my cutting board and I will be doing carrots 3 ways and doing a hummus. And then we'll come back over to this screen and I will answer some of your questions. And I see that some of you already asked some. So feel free to add your questions to the query that you have right in front of you. And welcome. So I always have to bring out my pom poms because when it comes to vegetables, that is the one and only thing amongst nutritionists, amongst the scientists, that has never been shown to be bad for you, right? So, like fat, good for me, bad for me. It's the type, it's not the type. We've gone around the bend with that. Protein, too much, not enough. But with fruits and vegetables, it has always been that they are super, super duper healthy for you. There's a couple of instances you might want to watch your intake. And there was a couple of questions about maybe it causing too much bloating. We'll get to that. So, how many vegetables are you supposed to eat a day? Now, as a chef and a nutritionist, I know that I am supposed to get, if I follow the dietary guidelines, about 5 to 6 servings, which is about a half a cup each. Or if it's a salad, a cup of green leafy counts as a serving. So 5 to 6 servings of vegetables a day. Now, as much as I try, people, as much as I try, I do not get vegetables in breakfast 80% of the time. I just don't. That's not how I start the day. But I was actually just reading some research this morning about how you start your day with what you eat really makes a difference in terms of your blood glucose levels. So if you have a problem, you're pre-diabetic or something like that, you might want to take this advice. So if you eat fiber, which fruits and vegetables are full of, and whole grains, if you eat the fiber before you eat something like a piece of toast or a muffin, something that can spike your glucose levels, and if you eat some protein, your levels won't go up as high. So still not going to eat my vegetables at breakfast, people, unless I have an omelet, but I don't want to eat eggs every day. But what I do, and this is my tip, is I know for 5 to 6 vegetables a day, I've got to do a smoothie because there's no way I am eating 5 to 6 vegetables a day. I definitely get 2 in at lunch and I get 2 in at dinner all the time, like 95% of the time. But that extra 2 servings, I'm going to do a smoothie, the one that keeps the fiber in, people, not the one that throws the fiber out the back. So that's how I get my 5 to 6 in a day. When you look at others like the American Heart Association, the Mind Diet, it's about 5 servings a day. So how are we Americans doing? This is when I wish we had a poll. Not well at all, like the worst. Not only 9.3% of adults actually get enough vegetables in their diet. And listen to this, lean in. There is no cohort, there is no age group, gender that gets enough vegetables in their diet. Nobody does. And when we look to see why that is, cost, access, and time, and knowing what to do with them, right? So when you're looking for vegetables, fresh is great, especially with farmers markets and all that, but so is frozen. Frozen has about as much, if not more, when you look at certain nutrients are higher, certain nutrients are lower, but for all intents and purposes, they are basically the same nutrition wise. With the canned, you tend to have a lot of salt and creamy. So Americans that do eat a lot of vegetables tend to put a lot of fat and salt on them. So we're talking creamy sauces to hide the taste of the vegetables, because that's why people don't like it, because vegetables are bitter, and they're bitter for a reason. Vegetables are bitter because the compound, they're called phytonutrients, which just means plant nutrients. They protect the plant from damage. When we eat these phytonutrients, they are superpowers in our body, right? They are antioxidants, they're anti inflammatory, they're anti cancer agents. They are incredibly powerful chemicals. But these chemicals are bitter. So, what some farmers are doing is breeding less bitter vegetables, which we all know if you listened to me before, then you're getting rid of the phytochemicals. So, why bother? Stop that, farmers. So, okay. So the phytonutrients is what's really super powerful about vegetables. And we have over 5,000 of them. We don't know about them all. And each one comes with a different color. So the phytonutrients gives the vegetable not only its odor, which means its flavor, but also the color. So when I tell people to eat a rainbow, I'm totally serious. Eat a rainbow because I don't memorize the thousands of phytonutrients and what's in the green and what's in the purple and what's in the red. I just know if I get a compliment of them all day, oh, my body is so strong and ready to fight off anything, really. So that's what vegetables are really great for. They're also great for the amount of fiber that they have. And if you listen to me before, especially with fruit and whole grains, we are not getting anywhere near the amount of fiber. And if our microbiome's not happy, we are not happy. And the microbiome really gets really robust with enough fiber. So that's really important to know. Vegetables have been shown to decrease the risk of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and all-cause mortality. What that means is any certain way you're going to die, but I'm not accidents, but disease-wise, they decrease with the vegetables. And when you put fruits and vegetables together, you're going to be happier. We learned that last month. You're going to be happier, your quality of life, there's going to be less depression. So eating enough vegetables is really important. Now, I want to quote Eric Rim from Harvard right now because what we do as a society, us, especially Americans, if we find something's healthy for us, like carotenoids, I think a lot of us have heard of carotenoids before. They're healthy for us because they're phytonutrients. What do? We go and we stick it in a little pill and we call it a supplement. And what happened? What happened was those that were smokers, we almost doubled their risk of lung cancer. So when I'm talking about phytonutrients in vegetables and how healthy they are, I am not talking about supplements. What Eric Rim says is it's all the benefits, almost every single benefit is through the diet, not through a supplement. So that's why food coaches are so important because we teach people how to take these bitter tasting vegetables that are so incredibly good for us and we turn them into delightful bites. That's exactly what we do. Okay, so we know about the phytonutrients, we know about the diets. There are certain situations that you might not want to consume as many or certain types of vegetables. And they're the same as they were for fruit. So your oral allergy, which means that your mouth gets all itchy when you are allergic to maybe like birch or grass. It reflects certain types of vegetables. So there are certain types of vegetables if you have oral allergy syndrome that you wouldn't be able to take because it makes you just itch so much. Some people are like, okay, I can take the itch, and others just really swell up, and that's just not healthy. We also have with kidneys, right? The kidneys and potassium. So and vegetables are high in potassium. And I do want to talk about potassium for a minute because that's another superpower in vegetables. Potassium, when you have kidney disease, your kidneys can't really deal with them very well. So you would have to eat foods lower in potassium. Potassium and sodium, here's a cell. One's an innie, one's an outie, and they help to pump the fluid in and out of your cell. Sodium, potassium, sodium, potassium. So when we look at something called the DASH diet that helps stop hypertension, we used to think that was all about the salt. That's only one side of the coin, people. The potassium is the other side of the coin. So when we look at lowering your hypertension, we're talking about building your potassium up while you lower your sodium. But just by adding more vegetables without even touching the sodium, you can lower your blood pressure. That's what science says. So, okay, so then we have our FODMAPs diet. So those are, here we go: fructose, oligosaccharides, disaccharides, polysaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. Some people have a problem digesting them. And I know there's a common, I'm not even going to say if it's true or not, because I'm not even going there, but about pectins and not being able to eat anything with pectins. And then there go all the legumes out the window and that kind of thing. But there are ways you can cook to lower the amount of pectin level. But anyway, those that have sensitivity to foods with FODMAPs tend to get irritable bowel syndrome. And so in order to decrease the flare of irritable bowel, you go off of FODMAPs and then slowly introduce them and see which ones that agree with you or not. So there we go with the risks. I'm just looking to see my cheat sheet here. When we're looking at what is a vegetable, it's not a fruit. But what the definition is any kind of plant life or plant product. So we've got stems like asparagus, we've got roots like garlic and onion, we've got, bulbs like garlic and onion, roots like carrots, seeds like the legumes and the corns and the peas, and flowers like your broccoli and your cauliflower. So again, there are a lot of what are considered fruit, tomato, bell peppers, that are we actually treat as culinary vegetables. And so in this course, I talk about them as vegetables because from a culinary perspective, that's what I'm going to be doing. So when we are looking at bioavailability of the phytonutrients, vitamins and minerals, it really depends on which one you're talking about. So I'll give you an example. We're going back to the carotenoids again. So carotenoids, they're high in tomatoes. And they're high in carrots as well. These carotenoids tend to bind with the protein in the vegetable. And so in order to release them, to be able to get the free carotenoids, steaming has been shown to increase the availability of carotenoids as opposed to raw. But then when we look at adding a little bit of fat, because carotenoids are fat soluble, as are vitamins D, E, K, and A, we will increase our absorption of those vitamins. Now, I know some of you don't cook with oil. That's totally fine. Usually I find that people that don't cook with oil tend to eat lots of fruits and vegetables anyway. So you're going to be getting a ton of them. So you wouldn't need to, unless someone said that you really got to up your vitamin E game or you've got to up your carotenoids. Then you might want to dab a little bit of something like olive oil, which will increase the absorption of the carotenoids. So I get this question a lot. The question about, is it better to eat them raw or cooked? I get that every single time. So I'm just going to talk about it right now. It depends. Some nutrients are more readily available with cooked and some with raw. And instead of memorizing each one of them, it really is, and this again comes from a researcher saying, eat a complement of raw and cooked. What he said was, and I'm blanking on his name right now, but that's okay. He said, we cook to make food taste better. If food tastes better, we eat more of it. So eat more of the delicious types that you want. And so today I'm going to do a carrot salad, which is raw. I'm going to do steamed carrots, and I'm also going to do roasted carrots. And you'll see about the flavor profile and how all of that kind of shifts when we use different culinary techniques. All right. I am going to now go into how to make a hummus. And then we are going to go, but before I do, oh my gosh, version 2 of this textbook just came out. And it's called Culinary Medicine from Clinic to Kitchen, a hands-on guide to transforming nutrition guidelines into culinary skills. So this book, it's called The Essential Foods, it summarizes fruit in a chapter, vegetables, protein, fats, and oils, and dairy. And this will have all the information about what phytonutrients and what they do and how good they are for you and when maybe you should watch vegetable intake and all of that. So this is on Amazon, so definitely pick it up and let me know how you like it. All right, so this guy, Ottolenghi, I'm not even sure I'm pronouncing his name right. I don't really care because he's the master of flavor. So I decided that I am going to, for you all, make a hummus. So I'm going to try again to make a hummus. I've spent the last 6 months trying to figure out what is the trick to really good hummus. There's two. One is you start with the dried legume, so dried chickpeas, not the canned ones. And the second one is you add a little bit of ice water when you're making it. So I'm now going to switch over to the cutting block and I am going to make a hummus. So here we go. We switched over to there. All right, I'm going to assume we are. Right now, I have my chickpeas. Now, if I had a family member that was really FODMAP, irritated by FODMAPs, I would pick all the coverings of the chickpeas. That's not happening today because it's just not. I don't have the time for that. All right, so what we're going to add to this is we are going to add 10 grams of fresh ginger. We are going to add a small piece of garlic. We are going to add the zest of 2 lemons, which is just as easy as putting this in here. Now, again, remember what acid does, which is the lemon juice. It brightens the flavor of anything we're cooking with. So really, really important culinary technique there. All right. And now we need to add the juice of 2. Well, I'm going to put 1.5 lemons. These are really big lemons. So 1 might even do it. All right, here we go. There's 1. Love this little thing. You have to get one that's not too cheap because I got one at a dollar store. Let me tell you, it lasted one squeeze. All right. Yeah, I think 1 more is going to do it. Just eyeballing this. All right. And he's calling for a tablespoon of olive oil. Again, I get these olive oils from the Olive Oil Hunter, who you can Google. It's incredible. There is nothing like it. I'm just going to, just because you're here, I'm measuring. The baking, right, we have to measure really specifically, but I don't ever really 100% follow a recipe. All right, now they're asking for a teaspoon of tahini. And so when I got COVID last week, oh, did I tell you I got COVID? The terrible awful happened. I lost my sense of flavor. You still have taste, so I could taste if something was sweet, but I totally couldn't tell you what it was. And I still don't have it back 100%. So I am actually adding lots of flavor to this so that I can taste it. All right, and now we're going to add some ice cold water. All right, remember I said 2 tablespoons of ice cold water. We're going to see, it's going to be live. We'll see if this one works well. And a little bit of flake sea salt. All right. So I am going to just take this off camera for a second while I blitz it. Think amongst yourselves while I do this. I think I'm going to add another teaspoon of cold water. It doesn't seem to mix as well. There we go. All right. You see that? Oh my goodness. That looks incredible. Really very creamy. Okay. This definitely works better than the canned. The canned, it's just really hard to scoop out because it's not as liquidy. And this actually, they also say another tip is to have the chickpeas be warm when you're making this. And it was warm. Now, remember I said my taste is a little wonky. So again, a little Chef O, I'm going to call him. I sauteed some garlic slices, fresh garlic slices. I also went and got thyme and oregano, and I put it all in here. And right now, I'm just going to add it to the top of this. So it's a little bit of dipping, which again is going to add flavor, so I will be able to taste it. And then always just something fresh, right? It just makes it pop. So here we have our hummus, and I am going to give it a try and let you know how it is. You'll have to forgive the crunch for a second. Mm. Mm-mm-mm. Okay, people. There is just nothing as good as fresh hummus. I mean, I like the tribe hummus. I like other kinds of hummus, but it's in a league in and of itself when you make it yourself. All right, I'm gonna keep crunching. You'll have to bear with me. So I'm cleaning this up because now we're moving on to carrots 3 ways. Now, carrots. Oh my gosh, there's a big piece of carrot. What I did was I used my Cuisinart to make the carrot. Just you can also julienne it if you have a whole bunch of time on your hands and want to do something. But I want to add another vegetable to it. Give it some more crunch. Also, I saw the picture and I was like, oh my goodness, that looks so pretty. I want to do that. So I did. So I'm going to take out my mise en place. Remember our mise en place? I put it all together for this recipe. So here's my mise en place. And we are going to make the dressing. So in here, we have literally a 1/4 cup of oil. Again, my favorite oil. And we also have a 1/2 teaspoon of maple syrup. Just a 1/2 teaspoon to give it a little sweetness. Because when I look up carrots on the internet and recipes, hand to God, 95% of them, butter and sugar, butter and sugar. And you don't need that. Absolutely do not need that. All right, so we are going to add the scallions to this. And we're going to add the parsley. Got some parsley. And we're going to mix all of these ingredients together. And yes, you can use your hands, people, as long as they're clean. All right, now we're going to finish making the dressing. I have measured out in this, I've measured out a 1/2 teaspoon cumin, 1/2 teaspoon salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon pepper. Oh, all right. And I also want something crunchy and proteiny. So I have some sunflower seeds that I'm adding to this. Again, we need our acid. And you know why we need our acid? We need our acid to brighten the flavor. So this is going to have, I want something with like a savory spice to it. Recipes for carrots often call for nutmeg and cinnamon as well, but you can just mix it up. So what we're doing here is, technically, we have a little bit of sweetness. That sweet dulls the sense of bitter a little bit. There's a complement there. So if you can add sweetness to a dish, technique number one, add sweetness to a dish. Number two, when you add a little bit of salt, salt plus bitter equals sweet. And if you want to do a test with that, you can take a piece of like something really bitter, like radicchio or broccoli raw, and add a little, take a bite, and then add a little bit of soy sauce or just regular salt, and then taste it again, and it becomes a little bit sweet. So I'm mixing this up. I'm going to add it to the carrots. And I'm not going to toss that with my hands, so I can use whatever's available. So this would go really well with something grilled on the, I maybe like swordfish or baked tofu, whatever you want for the main ingredient. I mean, the main star of the show. This is your vegetable side dish. This I would eat actually for lunch because it does have some of the protein from these seeds. I would probably just add more. I'd probably add some hazelnuts to this or cashews and call it a day. So not bad. When I was working at Banff Springs Hotel, one of my jobs when I first started out cooking as part of garde manger, I had a vat that I had to be up to my elbows in for a carrot salad. And your typical carrot salad has like raisins and it's sticky and sweet and all that. This is incredible. So let me know if you want the recipe for that. So here is a dish with carrots that are raw. Now these carrots were a little bit bitter. Sometimes you get a batch that just really tastes metallic and bitter, and sometimes they're sweet. But this one was a little bitter to start with. Oh my gosh. The cumin goes so well in that, and I never would have thought to do cumin with that, but that's delicious. All right. Number two, steamed vegetables. So I did something on purpose. And can you tell me what was wrong with these? So I had leftover green beans, and I was getting ready for the class. And I actually didn't do it, if I'm to be 100% honest, on purpose. It was by accident. I left it in there too long. And so what happened? It became really dull and limpy limp. No one wants to eat that. What I would do with these is I'd probably toss them in a little oil, salt, and pepper, and I'd add it to maybe a chef salad. So I'm not going to throw them out, but they're not the most appetizing of things. So you want to make sure that the color's bright after you steam, that you steam it in, like you can steam it in the microwave, or you could put it in a basket like this in a pot. Even the Instant Pots, I think you can steam now. I was reading all about that. So you want to make sure the color stays bright and that there is a snap to it. So these are actual carrots that I steamed before. And they totally, you hear that? They totally have a snap to them. So remember, when we're building something and we are trying to decrease the bitter taste, what do we need first and foremost? And you all said in unison, I can hear you, salt. So I'm going to add just a little bit of salt. You don't need a lot of salt, a little bit of salt, do a little bit of pepper. And then you know what I'm going to do? Take a walk on the wild side, because I am going to use honey ginger balsamic vinegar. And I am just going to drizzle some of that on here. Don't need a lot of it. And again, what did I say about carotenoids? You increase the absorption with just a little bit of oil. We don't need a lot, just a little bit of oil. See? Let me tell you that. Yeah. To make it look good, I want to add some sliced almonds. And I also am going to put something green on there. The green. Add a little bit of parsley. You know, I couldn't find dill anywhere on the planet. I looked everywhere. For some reason, dill's been sold out. Maybe it's because it's carrot season. When I think of dill, I think of carrots. So there we go. There's our second dish. We've got some acid, we've got some salt, and there's a little sweetness. What I said before was that you will see people drizzling this with butter and either sugar or honey. Not going to do that. Not, no, no, no. All right. So now we are going to do our last dish, and it is going to be roasted carrots. So I, again, roasted these before just to save time. And about a 400 oven. I don't like to cook it on higher than 400. Now, these are not black carrots. I used orange, I used purple carrots, and I used yellow carrots. And I cooked this on 400 for about 20 minutes. And again, you don't want them to be very soft. You want them to have a little bit of a snap, like al dente. So we have our roasted carrots, which does not need anything. What I did was I cut the carrot, and what you want to be really careful about when you make roasted carrots is that the pieces are the same size. So I'm just going to move this over for a second and just show you with this carrot here. When you are cooking carrots, you want to make sure they're the same size. And also, when we steam them, we cut them on a bias. So, and why we do that is because this has more surface area than this, so that it can capture the herbs and the oils and the vinegars, and you can increase the taste in each bite when you do it that way. So that's how we do. We cut it for the steaming it. And I did try and do the fancy cut like this, and then you cut it down in half. And I actually didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. So I went to my standard where I'm cutting everything in the same size. You can do whatever you want. You can use whatever shape you want. Just make sure that they're the same size so that you don't have some that are burned and some that are undercooked in the same dish. So what I did was I cut the carrots. I had a bowl that I tossed them with a little bit of oil, salt, pepper, and garlic salt. And the reason I didn't use fresh garlic is because I knew I wasn't going to be able to keep an eye on the oven, because garlic can go like that. It can turn from nice and tasty to burnt tasting, and then I don't even like the dish. So with this, I'm just going to add a teeny tiny bit of a drizzle of some honey on top of this, just tiny, like not even a quarter teaspoon for this whole thing, because it's going to really complement the salty flavor that's on here. And I'm going to add some sesame seeds. Just why? Because it looks so good. Some light and some dark sesame seeds. Oh my gosh. How does that look? This looks amazing. So I took a piece before the honey. After the honey, it just takes it up a level. All right. So I showed you how to do carrots 3 ways. And now what I'm going to do is just move back over to the large screen and where you all can see me. And I'm going to answer some questions. But clean up a little bit. You can't just have, if you're in the kitchen and you're a chef, it can't be dirty. All right, so I'm going over to your questions. And again, if you think of any, then just go ahead and let me know. Stick it in here. Oh, sorry, people. Is that good? All right. Jennifer, can you recommend a good book that shows the details of fruit, veggies, legumes, medicinal properties? So I actually, in the textbook that I talked about, we do have that summarized, but I think what you're looking for is something more like what's in a carrot and what's in a celery and what's in a a whole list. So I searched on Amazon and I found a book that's actually linked in this chat for you to take a look at. It's called The Complete Guide to Nutrients and A to Z of Superfoods, Herbs, Vitamins, and Minerals, and Supplements. Don't forget the supplements, but it'll tell you one by one fruits and vegetables and what's in each of them. Now, this is important because when you are working with somebody as a culinary medicine expert and you are working on helping them to increase the amount of healthful food in their diet, perhaps a dietitian told them they needed to follow something. We always start with the foundation. The foundation being, are you following a diet that has enough fiber, 25 grams for a woman, 38 for a male under the age of 50? Do you have enough fiber in your diet from whole grains, fruits, and vegetables? Are you consuming healthful sources of protein and fats and oils? That's where you start with. I can tell you after practicing for over 30 years, I do have a lot of people that come in and go, what exact vegetable or what exact this do I need to eat to be healthier? There is nothing that will replace the foundation of a healthy diet. And when you then take it up a notch, you might have an issue, like one of you is having hot flashes, or your kidneys are getting weaker, or there's some other reason why you need to be more specific about what nutrient is in which food. Then you just make sure you eat a rainbow of colors, right? But you cannot replace this foundational level with going from the top down and going, all right, I heard vitamin E is really good for me. I'm just gonna eat foods that just have vitamin E. It's all about balance. It's all about variety. It's all about the different colors. Okay. Now we've got Teresa, curious about foods to bring for overseas flights. Well, the first thing I thought about, Therese, sorry, it's not Teresa, Therese, is you want to be able to finish them before you get off the plane. I watched enough video of people not realizing they still had an orange or some live produce and being put aside and having their bags go through. So whatever you bring, make sure that you can finish it on the flight, because you don't want to get in trouble when you go overseas. Because most places do not allow you to bring produce in. So what you're going to think about, though, is you are going to think about foods that are really high in water, because you're going to get really dehydrated on that flight. And so cucumbers are really, really high in water. Fruits like watermelon, strawberry, most fruits and vegetables are really high in water to begin with. And so I would just do something that's not going to get all mushy. So I probably wouldn't do the watermelon, but I would definitely pack up some grapes and some berries. And then I would cut up some cucumber with little cherry tomatoes that are so good right now, especially if you're growing them yourself. And just really focus on that and make sure you drink a lot of water. When I travel, I'm gluten-free, dairy-free, so I have to bring something. So I'll usually bring a sun butter and jelly sandwich on whole grain bread. That's gluten-free. I'll bring nuts and seeds. But don't eat too many nuts and seeds that, like, if you're not used to eating a lot of nuts and seeds, you eat nuts and seeds, you're going to get really gassy on the plane, and no one wants that, especially you, because it's very painful. All right, I hope that helps. Nope. I think I'm probably I'm just going to go through. So people want recipes. Absolutely. I will post recipes. I will let you know where they are. Yes. I will get recipes to you. Don't worry, because you're all signed up. All right. Hello, Dr. Deb. I love your photo. Thank you. Do I lose the nutrition of onions if I dice them, then refrigerate them for 4 days before I use them? Thank you. Now, you can do that, Lori, But when you dice the onions and you put them in the fridge, when you take them out of the fridge after 1, 2, 3, 4 days, they say it can even be up to a week. You want to make sure you cook those onions because they could have gotten some bacteria on them. You do not use um, have them raw. So yes, you can cut up the onions and excuse me, people. I ate a bunch of stuff and it's there we go. Excuse me if you heard my burp. Um, so yes, then just heat them up because you don't want to risk getting any type of food poisoning. All right. Lori, another one. Many recipes call for sauteed vegetables. I'm grateful to see that instructions now often suggest sauteing in water instead of oil. I prefer, excuse me, to steam them. Am I losing nutritional value and or flavor? So what we're talking about is steaming briefly. So last night I made some broccoli. I chopped them up into bite-sized pieces and I put a tiny bit of water in the bottom of a saute pan, not even a quarter of an inch. And I started just cooking them in that little bit of steam. And then I threw out that water and then added some toasted sesame oil and soy sauce. And that way I briefly steamed them. So you're not going to lose a lot of nutrients when you briefly steam something. You're going to lose nutrients from high heat. You're going to lose nutrients from cooking too long. And you're going to lose nutrients if you cook in submerged in water. So boiling, you're going to lose the most unless actually the vegetables are boiling in a soup or a stew and then you're consuming that liquid. You didn't lose them. They just went a different place. Then you ate them from a different place. So time, temperature, and you don't submerge them in water. So no, I think you're really good to go. That broccoli was amazing. My kid even ate them. All right. Now we're going to go on to Ines. Are there any vegetables that help lessen or prevent hot flashes during menopause? Still have them, even though, yes, you have, yes. This period of perimenopause before it totally leaves the building can be a very long time, and I'm sorry about that. So again, you have to go back to your foundation. I hope you're eating a diet that is flush with fruits and vegetables, no pun intended, and that you will have more hot flashes if you have more of an overprocessed diet. If you drink a lot of caffeine, if you eat a lot of foods that are really high in salt, where you retain water, if you eat foods that are really high in sugar, all of those are going to prompt hot flashes. And it's okay to drink alcohol, like 1 glass a day. I looked into this all for you. But if you're drinking too much alcohol, that's also not going to be really great. Now, plants have what's called phytoestrogens, which means they're plant estrogens. So you can mimic some of the estrogen you're losing by eating plant estrogens. Soybeans is really high in phytoestrogens, and again, I'm not talking about the supplement. I'm talking about the soybeans, tofu, that type of thing, edamame. But so do flax seeds and nuts, bell peppers, green beans, carrots, zucchini. All of those have estrogenic-like components. You'd have to be careful if you had an estrogen-positive breast cancer. I'm just talking in general now. You wouldn't want to eat a ton of phytoestrogens, but you can eat some of them. You also want to make sure your diet is anti-inflammatory because inflammation will make those hot flashes go just take off. So omega-3 from like fatty fish, and anti-inflammatories like turmeric and spices, all of that is really going to help. And if you walk your way over to Chinese medicine, they actually have a list of foods that they call cooling. And that would be your apples, bananas, spinach, broccoli, green tea, and eggs. They help to cool. I actually am doing some Chinese medicine right now for the COVID that I got, and They're always telling me to drink green tea and eat eggs to cool myself down. So if that's what you follow, then you could try that out. And don't cover this part of your body. You cover this part of your body, you're gonna flash. You're gonna keep flashing. All right. Lutrina. Oh, I love that name. Are there courses in culinary medicine available to date? That's what I've been doing for the last 6 years, Lutrina. First, I created the textbooks with 40 experts, and then I partnered with Rouxbe. And over the last year and a half, we've built what's called the Food Coach Academy. The Food Coach Academy basically is a culinary medicine training program, and you get 510 continuing education hours from the American Culinary Federation. And it really goes into it's a 13 course program where you get a certificate of completion at the end, and you get these continuing education hours. And I do know someone asked about, can insurance pay for culinary medicine? And oh, by the way, it's 50% off now. So go buy the Food Coach Academy. You won't be disappointed. So when it comes to culinary medicine, there is no what's called CPT code. So in order to have a code to put down, so like a dietitian has codes and a doctor has codes, insurance will pay for those codes. And I'm going to give you just a trip down health coach lane for a minute. Health coaches over the last like 20 years, there were so many different programs. And it took Coach Meg Megson at Harvard a dozen years, because I spoke to her, 12 years to create a standardized health coaching protocol. And still with that, I don't believe there's health coach specific codes. When it comes to culinary medicine, what's happening in the food is medicine world is that in order to receive medically tailored meals or produce or groceries, there has to be a registered dietitian that recommends what those foods are for. And I'm working with the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics right now to create a code so that dietitian technicians would be able to use this code. Once you have a code, I know this is a long answer, but once you have a code, then you can through time ask that health coaches or food coaches can be able to use it. So it's a long process to get from being a new entity like health coach, like food coach, and then getting a insurance to pay for that. So I hope that answers that question. Those are all the questions I can see, but I'm going to ask Patrick if he sees any others that I don't. Refresh the page. All right, refresh the page. Oh, my favorite person's on, Donita. She's thanking me for the Food Coach Academy. So Donita is a student, and she's already out there in the community doing live events with community members, underserved community members, and teaching them how to add flavor so that the healthy food becomes the food that they want to eat. So Donita, keep doing the great work. All right. Okay. Can you address food combining? Or are there vegetables we maybe shouldn't combine in a meal? So there is no scientific data to support that combining certain foods does anything, because we have an acidic environment in our stomach. We've got a whole host of enzymes that are there. We don't just release like a vegetable enzyme or a fat enzyme or a protein enzyme. They're all released, right, when we ingest food. Having said that, there are certain forms of medicine, like naturopaths that I know of really believe in not food combining. So what I always say is that if you're eating something and it's not agreeing with you, then try eating it by itself. Your body never lies. I can't say scientifically there are any vegetables that we shouldn't combine. There are vegetables that we should combine, like maybe like broccoli rabe with something sweeter like sweet potato to make it excuse me, make it taste better. But no, there are no combining of vegetables from a health standpoint. You can digest them technically, scientifically. Yes, Kathy. What's the deal with lectins? Do we need to be concerned? Oh, Kathy, I knew this question was going to come up. I did, because there's this one very famous physician who really is saying that lectins are really the cause of so many things. Um, and I got really scared when that first came out. I'm like, oh my gosh, is that why I have irritable bowel syndrome, et cetera, et cetera. But as a nutritionist, legumes are incredibly healthy for you. There are so many positive health effects from eating foods that have lectins in them. Um, so I don't believe it's a blanket statement. And I always, 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 when somebody comes out, I don't care if you're a clinician, you're a dietitian, you're a scientist, but you come out and say all of this is bad for you, or all of that is good for you. Um, no, I feel it all goes back to the individual. So if someone has irritable bowel syndrome and they're having a really hard time, I would say, right, cut some lectins out, go on a low FODMAP diet, see if that helps you. Again, your body doesn't lie, and see if that works for you. If you don't have extreme bloating after you eat the hummus like I made, then don't worry about it. I would not worry about it. That is my answer. All right. Any tips on how to reduce the gaseous impact of eating so many vegetables? Yes, Diane. A lot of us have an issue with that. So the first thing is that you want to start slow. So if right now you're eating one vegetable a day, or you're working with somebody and they're only eating maybe one vegetable a week or something, you just want to start slow. I try with one vegetable a day, and then you work your way up to two when that's comfortable, three to four. So going slowly, that can help. Um, Soaking raw vegetables in water for about 15 minutes and cooking them well can also help with the gas. Um, the most gas producing vegetables really are like your onion and garlic, as well as your cruciferous vegetables, because they have like a whole host of complex fibers, and they contain sulfur, which can cause quite the odoriferous gaseous state of affairs. Um, so if you can't do cruciferous vegetables, maybe switch to dark green vegetables. And you want to make sure that any legumes are cooked thoroughly. So, and maybe you have irritable bowel syndrome. So I would start with, is there an issue going on? Or is it just really you're increasing your vegetables too fast? If you're increasing your vegetables too fast, slow it down. Your body's your test tube, right? So which vegetables agree with you, which ones don't? There are so many of them. You don't have to eat them all, right? And if you find that the broccoli and the cauliflower, like that's not really working too well raw, I've got some cauliflower over here. I'm going to make a curry cauliflower cold soup when I'm done. So just cook it and try that way. Slow and easy really wins this race. Will medical insurance pay? I already did that. All right. I should be asking him, but why does Dr. Gundry? Yes, I didn't want to say his name, Nike, but yes, he does, because he thinks that the lectins in the plants are what's causing a whole host of gut inflammation. And if that's your jam and you find that that's something you want to try, go ahead. Again, it's not something I promote. I'd start with a gastroenterologist first to see what you have going on. And again, when we're used to eating overly processed food and we switch to more of a whole food type of diet, we are going to get pretty gassy. But then it all settles down and you're able to handle it. You just need give your body enough time. Is there enough potassium in coconut water to address high blood pressure? Well, there's quite a bit of potassium in coconut water, yes, but that's not the only way I would address high blood pressure. I would first make sure you're getting a host of vegetables and that your sodium levels are not high, and that you're eating a full spectrum of different colorful plant-based foods. Um, so again, notice how I go to the foundation instead of we'll use coconut water as like a supplement so that because that's easier for me to do than eating the vegetables. If you get some of it from coconut water, great. Put some coconut water in with some vegetables and make yourself a smoothie. Even better, even better. The book title after culinary medicine, it's culinary medicine from clinic to kitchen, and then it's the essential foods one. So there's 5 books in this series. This first one has a version 2. The others are going to get the second version. But if you just do Debbie Kennedy times culinary medicine, they'll all come up on Amazon for you. Oh, the Oda. You considering that? No, this is the cookbook, Ottolenghi's cookbook called Flavor. But there was one that I did mention, and that's in the chat. The A to Z, the nutrients from A to Z. But that wasn't culinary medicine. The only culinary medicine book is this one that myself and 40 experts and a dozen chefs did from around the world. All right. Do the green powders AG1 work as veggie replacements? They're not a replacement. They can be an addition. But again, the green powders, I don't do the powders, but again, is that all you have access to? Is that all you have time for? I would ask that you try and introduce whole fruits and vegetables into your diet and maybe have one veggie replacement. I myself am a little wary of the blue-green algae because of potential toxins that it can hold. So I don't tend to do that. Again, not going with the supplements, sticking with the whole food diet is really the way to go. I don't know your situation individually, but that might be something I would talk to a naturopath or a dietitian about. I am a registered dietitian, would like to provide an online class. What tips can you give me? Love what you do, Krish. Absolutely. And just really speak in layman's terms. I've actually been doing a study. I got into this course at MIT, and I am talking to a lot of people in the food as medicine space that do cooking classes, and what they all say is that it needs to be relational and you need to build trust. Those 2 things happen when you're authentic. It happens when you bring the technical aspects of things down and translate it into what shows up in your dish, right? So it's loving what you do, building that trust, and being really relational. So get to know your audience. If your audience might be made up of certain culture and they eat a lot of foods that you might not necessarily be so familiar with, get to know those foods so that you honor everybody's palate and their wallet and their taste buds. Good luck to you. Elaine, all right, so what is the Food Coach Academy all about? I'm going to skip that for a second because are you suggesting 6 vegetables a day separate from all the fruits you might eat? So Marcia, yes, it's about 5 vegetables a day and then about 2 to 3 fruit. So when you're really looking at plant-based foods and you look at actually like something like the Mediterranean diet, there are 7 to 10 fruits and vegetables in that diet. So there's the 5 a day, which was 3 vegetables, 2 fruit. What science is really showing is the more that you can consume, the better off that you'll be. So that's how I'd answer that question. And would you recommend roasting versus air fry? I haven't tried air fry, Eugene. Can you try that out and let me know? I've heard good things about it, but I don't have one, so I can't actually give you any advice on that. And Jacqueline, a substitute for lemon juice, anything that's acidic. So you could do lime juice, orange juice. You can do any types of vinegars, flavored vinegars. rice vinegar, balsamic vinegar, red wine vinegar, all sorts of vinegars, and also alcohol. But I don't usually use alcohol. I'll use another type of citrus or another type of vinegar. All right, talk a New York minute, can I? The Food Coach Academy is all about training a tribe of food warriors. They're basically people in the community that are really dedicated to changing people's health, and they do it through teaching them how to cook again. And with a lot of individuals that I live in Vermont, we have a lot of refugees here, and they come and they end up eating just a processed diet because they don't know where to find the food they're used to. So it's really Food Coach Academy is about honoring someone's autonomy. So you learn a step-by-step science-based approach to helping people make a dietary change, one bite at a time. So just like in the textbook, I divided up into different types of food: fruit, vegetables, protein, sodium, sugar. I ask my patients, what do you want to work on? You choose. What would you like to work on? And they lead the way. So it's really about patients leading the way. It's it can take anywhere from 6 to 9 months, depending on how much time you put into it. And it is a new field. I will let you know that the American Culinary Federation is putting together a advisory board, of which I've been invited to be on, to actually create a national certification for culinary medicine. And so the Food Coach Academy would definitely apply for that as soon as that was established. But again, it's a brand new field, culinary medicine. So that is all the questions that I see. I wish you all the best. Happy eating. Share your recipes. Donita, do I provide a nutritional breakdown? I don't, because if what goes in it, but you can do that. There are some softwares you can use. I used to do that back in the day, Donita, but now it's just with things that look like this on a plate, unless the person I am working with has a really strict restriction, like the potassium level or the amount of fiber they can handle, or the amount of fat or calories. A lot of us think of calories. If you go to mostly a plant-based diet, you don't have to worry about calories too much. Then you would do that. But I don't. It's onerous. But I think there's some good software out there now. Again, enjoy your carrots any way you eat them. And I hope you learned a lot. And I really hope to see you in the Food Coach Academy because I built it for you.